Okay, so hello everybody. As promised, I will be making this week's live video in English, and the topic of this live will be basically recapping everything I talked about since August. So far I think I have I'm not sure, about 7, 8 or somewhere in between 7 to 10 live videos so far, and a total of about 20 videos. So what have I talked about in these 20 videos? Because I have a lot of people, a lot of friends from London and other people who don't speak Mongolian that would like to know what exactly it is that I talk about and what exactly it is that that got me kind of so many people watching me. That because basically people think that I'm just a vlogger. Those who don't know Mongolian, they think I'm just a vlogger, so they think I just sit in front of a camera and just talk about random things, but I don't. I actually talk about some at least meaningful things to me and to some other people. So what have I been talking about? Well, in the beginning, like I said, I announced that I was gonna start a podcast, and then I started making videos on Facebook, which were, for example, about language learning and starting a business and running a business and socializing with people, creating new habits, productivity, and things like that. So, for example, in the video where I, in my best video, I guess, that has been viewed over 80,000 times, in that video I talked about how to learn anything, including languages, 10 times faster. And the reason why I shared that video, I actually talked about it in my interview with Brian Rose, was because there was another video related to that by Charlie from Charisma on Command, which was quite helpful to me as well. So basically I kind of used that, and then I added my own values to it. Because for example, I learned I've been intensively learning French for the past several months, and I brought in my own perspectives, my own experiences, and my own kind of extra pinch of salt on top of that, and shared it to everybody, thinking that it will be useful to other people because it was useful for me as well. And in that video I talk about the things that I learned from people like Tim Ferriss, who else, Josh Kaufman, and many others. For example, techniques like counterintuitive approach to things. For example, things that are seemingly counterintuitive, that wouldn't kind of result in a positive result, but it actually is much more effective and much more efficient than the traditional mainstream approach that most people take. So for example, I took examples like how Tim Ferriss learned to dance tango in 6 months and actually broke the Guinness World Record. And I also took some of my own examples in approaching how to learn a language, rather than sitting in front of a computer or in front of a book and just writing away, or just basically studying in the conventional way that schools teach you to study. So instead of that, I would actually, for example, utilize things like video games and be resourceful about the things like these apps and internet stuff, that all these resources that are available to me and everybody else, I'd rather be resourceful about them and come up with a counterintuitive, different way that would be both fun and effective and efficient and all of that. So that would be using the Pareto's 80-20 principle, which a lot of people know, but it takes skills to be able to utilize the principle, because everybody knows, at least not everybody, but a lot of people know Pareto's principle, but it takes constant experimentation and attempts, many attempts, in order to be able to utilize Pareto's principle in everything that you do, including language learning, business running, or just learning anything in general. So then I also talked about how you have to break down, just like in the book Your First 20 Hours by Josh Kaufman, I think, and also Tim Ferriss and many other people talk about, which is you have to break down your task and your time and everything into doable and manageable and trackable kind of chunks and pieces, and then you have to approach them one thing at a time, and also you have to do them you have to pick those most effective 20% or 10% of all those tasks and focus most intensively on that. So that was one of the ways to approach learning things faster. And the reason why I say that you can learn anything 10 times faster is because I'm assuming that you're learning at an average pace, at the pace that most people learn. And that's the slow pace. And everybody has a potential to learn anything 10 times faster. And so basically, with that potential, people don't utilize it as well as they should. And that's why people tend to do things really slow, much slower than they would have with the right techniques. So for example, and so yeah, that was the language learning video. And the other video that I talked about in business was, for example, how to start a business, how to what kind of intentions should you have, what kind of mentality and approach should you have in starting and running a business. So I used books like Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and also I listened to a lot of podcasts like Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and obviously Tim Ferriss podcast and Noah Kagan Presents. And all those podcasts and books and these resources that I've been looking into, they had a very common theme, which was basically in the Start With Why book, for example, it talked about how there was a layer of kind of like a target, and 3 layers, and in the innermost layer there was the why, and then the I think the how, and then in the outermost layer there was the what. And people in starting companies or in starting organizations or any cause, they mostly tend to approach it from the outside in. So they focus on what they do, how they do it, and then a lot of them don't even get to why they do it. And a lot of companies kind of reach their maximum potential and eventually go bankrupt after 3 years of running, because they perfect their what and why, and how. So if you ask most businessmen, what do you do? They'll tell you what they do. If you ask them, how do you do it? They'll tell you how they do it. And then if you ask them, why do you do it? Then they'll give some really vague answer, or a lot of them don't even know why. And some of the answers are because I want to make $1 million. And then you ask them, why do you want to make $1 million? And they'll be because that's what I wanted as a kid, or something. It's really vague, it's not specific, it's not meaningful. That's why those companies hit a certain plateau and they stop. So that's why I said, just like Simon Sinek says, you have to kind of really hone the why. You have to really focus on the why and really perfect your pitch kind of thing in terms of why you do this, why you're doing this in terms of business. So for example, the same thing is there's the same theme that goes on with me making these videos, which is I really focus on why I do this. And my why would be to help Mongolians, my fellow Mongolians, to improve their learning abilities, improve their business mentalities and knowledge and things like that, so that they can use those skills and knowledge to better improve their lives and then Mongolian economy and stuff. So what I'm trying to do is cause this little ripple or little positive spiral or a domino effect that can then have a massive impact in the people that I care about and stuff in the next 5-10 years or further. So that would be my why with these videos, for example. And there was another video that I made related to with business, which was how to exactly start a business, like what steps should you take in starting a business, which was basically inspired by Noah Kagan and Tim Ferriss and actually many others. But I mean, Noah Kagan preaches this the most, which is, and by the way, for those of you who don't know who Noah Kagan is the founder and CEO of Sumo and AppSumo, which is a company that helps businesses on the software side. Like they help them track their progress. They help them, like they provide software to businesses basically. And Noah Kagan was like the 30th employee of Facebook, and he also worked at Intel, Facebook, and what else? Mint, yeah. And he's a pretty smart guy. His company is a 7-8 figure company, quite successful in business. And he started his own company, Sumo, with validation, with almost $0 validation in a week time, which was basically getting your customers before you go ahead and market, or before you go ahead and focus on like investments and funds. You have to start by validating your product or idea or your service or whatever you're trying to provide. You have to validate it, which means you have to get customers to be willing to pay you money and then to be so satisfied and happy with your product or service. So that's what I was talking about in that video, and I actually challenged people to take on that challenge and get their first customers with whatever business ideas they have. And somebody actually did that, and I said in my video that I was gonna call them into my podcast and interview them and release them on my podcast, which I did. The interview I did, but I haven't edited it yet, and it was a great interview, and I'm going to be releasing it, I think, probably today or tomorrow. So that was that. And the reason why you have to validate is because if you don't validate, then you're going to be investing years maybe, and a lot of money and a lot of just time, effort, and everything. You invest it in, and then at the end of all that investment, you just end up with nothing, kind of, because nobody wants to buy it, because you haven't validated that people would actually buy that. You haven't tested it, you haven't checked. So like that's why it's crucial. And you don't have to start big. You can just start small and go deeper and spread from there. So that's like the core idea behind that. And what else? Yeah, there was another video that I did related to do with business, which was very important, because in that video I said how to increase your own value, how to increase your business's value, and how to basically become how to get into the inner circle of your industry. And that was inspired by Daniel Priestley's books like Key Person of Influence and Oversubscribed and books like that, which basically says that if you want to increase anything's value, you have to, and people forget about this, they learn this in their first class in any economics class. If you just walk into your economics class, they teach you from day one this main principle, but then you forget about it. What happens is you start to get wrapped up in all these complicated formulas and all these complicated things, and then you forget about the main principle, which is you have to have a more demand than your supply. It's as simple as that. So if, for example, if I want my time, my value and everything, my business to be more valuable, I have to have more demand than the supply. And how you can do that is, especially nowadays, there's a different way to do it. You can create your own market. So obviously it's difficult to enter a market and take up the demand, because there's competition out there. There are a lot of people similar to you or better than you, more experienced, or companies that are just better than you. So it's very difficult to compete with them on the same level. For example, I can't go into the phone market and compete with Apple and Samsung and all these companies. It would be just extremely difficult, if not impossible. So that's why you have to create your own market. And how that happens is, for example, if you take example of Hollywood actors and actresses, there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of actors and actresses in Hollywood, auditioning from place to place on a daily basis, trying to find acting jobs. And these people are not like untalented. They are extremely talented, skillful, good looking, and all of that. But they can't find jobs because there are not enough good movies out there that can kind of make them famous or successful as an actor or actress. And yet there are, so basically the situation is there are not enough movies, not enough good movies, and too much actors. So in that case, the movies are oversubscribed. They have so much demand and not enough supply. So the movies should be paying pennies on the dollar with these actors, and these actors and actresses should almost be paying the film industries, the film companies, to play in the movie because of the supply and demand issue. But yet at that same time, these movie companies pay actors and actresses millions of dollars. Every year you see big movies and you see the earnings of different actors and actresses. They get paid like $10 million per movie or stuff like that. So how does that happen when there's just a whole thousands of basically people lining up to take that same job? Somebody else goes in and gets so much like money for it. How that happens is because all of these actors and actresses that get paid a lot have their own market. So basically, if I am Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or I don't know, just any of those big actors that you know, these people have their own market. If they're in a film, they have people willing to watch that film, no matter what kind of film it is about. Like, for example, if I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger and I'm in a funny film or I'm in a crazy action film, it doesn't matter. There are still millions of people who are willing to watch it just because Arnold is in that movie. That means Arnold has his own market, own separate market from in the movie industry, and that's why their value is so high, because Arnold brings in his own market into the industry. So basically, what I'm saying here is that you have the opportunity to create your own market, to create the people that love you, trust you specifically because they like who you are, they like what you do, they like your why, and all of that. So that's why you have to continuously broadcast that and increase your value by increasing the demand over the supply. And that's not a trick. This is not a trick, because this is how it works, and it's not a trick because you can't trick people into liking you. You can't trick people into trusting you. You have to literally be genuine and be who you are, and just actually work hard towards giving those people value and gaining their trust. And for that to happen, you have to be a servant. You have to have that mentality of being a servant. Like, you can at the same time be very cocky, arrogant, or like, if that's who you are, it's cool. but at the same time you have to have that side of being a servant of the people that really want to kind of those people that trust you. You have to serve them, is what I'm saying. And in order to serve them genuinely, you cannot trick them. You cannot trick them into thinking whatever they think about you, at least not forever. So that's that, and that video was about that. And not just acting, there are in business, in the medical industry, in teaching, in any of that, you can step there. There's two sides. There's a wall, and on one side of the wall there are people that opportunities come to, and on the other side of the wall there are people that chase opportunities. So if I'm on this side of the wall, I am working so hard every day. I'm spending time working hard, but I'm not getting any opportunities because I'm always one step behind. I'm always trying to chase and get something that is running away from me. And if you spend time on working to be on this side, like I said, by being genuine and serving people and having a strong purpose and why, then you step onto that side, and basically opportunities come to you. People come to you when it comes to solving their problems in your specific industry. For example, if you're a doctor, if you're a doctor who's genuine, skilled, and willing to serve people and put that out there, like broadcast it constantly, maybe write a book on it, then you step into that side of the wall, and people will be kind of paying extra money to come and get treated by you. But your purpose to get that shouldn't be the money. It should be all that stuff that I just mentioned. So that is creating a value in yourself and becoming a key person of influence. But in Daniel Priestley's words, it takes 5 steps, which are pitching. So you have to pitch your idea. You have to, like I said, perfect that why. You have to perfect your purpose, what you're trying to achieve, what kind of cause you're trying to have, what kind of impact you're trying to have in the world. I mean, it doesn't have to be like perfect every time, but you have to constantly improve that. And I'm not saying that you should have that vague idea that you don't care about. It has to be specific to you, specific to your industry, and specific to the things you care about. So if I don't care about cars or motorcycles, I don't want to be saying like, oh, I want to create this opportunity for motorcycles. Like, that's just not genuine. So you have to, for example, speaking of motorcycles, I have a friend who is a racer, is a motorcycle racer, and I told him that he has a great opportunity to become that on this side of the wall and be a key person of influence in his industry. So if he takes steps like this, if he starts making videos on YouTube and whatever platform about motorcycles, reviewing maybe different brands, maybe starting with that, and then just going very specific micro niche in that area, and kind of broadcast to people why he does it and what he wants out of it, what kind of cause he wants to create from that. And if he continuously does that, then he will achieve like at least maybe a couple of hundred people at first, a couple of thousand people that watch his videos and support him, and then from then he can advance further in his motorcycle career, and he can then bring in his own market. And if he becomes a successful racer, then he will have his own kind of people that support him, which, like I said, similar to the acting career, it will make him more valuable. It will give him more sponsors and things, which puts him in that position where opportunity comes to him. And there was, like, I could talk about it in much more details of exactly what he can do, and I told him that, and he's actually right now working on it. And so basically Daniel Priestley's ideas were first pitching, right? Then publishing. And this publishing step is very important. It's very, very important. It can be in many different forms. It can be in video form. It can be in writing form, articles, books, podcasts. It can be anything. And as long as you publish and spread your ideas and express your thoughts and things like that, then you're basically taking steps closer to becoming on that side. And the third one is products. You have to create products, and majority of your products should be free, because in this information abundant world that we're living in right now, in the 21st century with internet, nobody wants to really pay for information that much. They want to pay for implementation of the information. So for example, if I teach you how to learn something fast, you don't want to be paying for that information, because it's everywhere. You can just Google it and find out, or you can just buy a book and find out, and books don't cost much. Then what should I charge you for? Then I should charge you to implement that idea. If I become your coach, if I create a course and you come and learn from me, and I guide you every step of the way, and I actually push you to do that, because the real value that you want as my customer, for example, if I'm doing this, then it's for you to be able to, at the end of the few months, let's just say the course is 3 months, and at the end of the 3 months, you want to be speaking your target language at an exceptional level, given the time, right? So that's the value that you want, not the information of how to get there, because that's just the means to an end. The real value that you want is to be able to speak to people in, say, for example, if you're learning German, you want to be able to speak to people in German. You want to be able to read things and understand and just open up the whole German world to you. That's the value that you want. And I can sell you the information to get there, but what's more valuable is the implementation. It's actually taking you from there to there. And that's why the information has to be free, but the implementation, you can charge a lot for that. So that is kind of like the whole business around this whole key person of influence thing. And the fourth one is actually creating a profile. So if I'm doing a business deal with somebody and I kind of Google their name, like even if it's after I meet the person, if I Google their name afterwards, if that person doesn't come up on LinkedIn, or if I don't see their own website or videos of them, then that person's not really credible, because especially in this era, you have to have publications to be a key person of influence, and that's just how it is. So you have to be Googleable, and I think it's this. Daniel Priestley also says this, but I really believe that this is an era very similar to like discovering America and discovering Australia for the first time. And when the British people first discovered America or Australia, they just went around and just claimed the territories, claimed the lands by just putting their flags on and building their fences and just saying this is my area. And then they started building their own farms or whatever, factories and stuff in that area. And those who didn't claim the areas became these people called swagmen, going from place to place, working for minimum wage and not earning much. And in the modern era right now, you have to claim your own industry, your own niche in your industry, and you have to claim your own name. For example, if your name is, in my case, if your name is Orgil, then if you Google Orgil, if you Google my name, I have to come up. If not, then I'm not a key person of influence. And luckily, right now, if you Google my name, my first name, Orgil, I come up on the first page. So I'm taking these steps towards becoming a key person of influence, so that opportunities can come to me, and so that I can then use that to further benefit my why, which I began with, which is advancing the Mongolian people in improving themselves so that they can impact the whole world even. Because Mongolia was once great. We had the largest contiguous land empire in history, but right now we're not there anymore. But who am I to say that we can't go there again? So that's why I think we can go there again with these small steps that everybody can take towards improving themselves, and then improving their family, and then improving their country, and perhaps improving their world after that. It's a pretty big ambition, but I know that I can't do it by myself. It will take everybody to do it. So that's why I'm kind of trying to support everybody to do it. So that's basically that video, basically the general idea of what that video was about. And I also had other videos where I was teaching how to study, teaching how to focus, and meditating. I haven't fully done all of that yet, but I've talked about that a lot in my videos. And so basically this video is for the people who didn't get to watch my videos because they didn't understand Mongolian, and also just recapping everything I talked about in English for the Mongolians who understand English or wanting to learn English. And at the same time I'm kind of testing if I create content in English, if people would watch that. So the order of the videos were basically, there were actually 2 videos of me speaking different languages. In one video I was attempting to speak 5 different languages, and in another video I was speaking French after learning it for 7 months. And then I started talking about how to get there, how to learn things fast, and so all that stuff that I just talked about. So yeah, that's the general idea of the kind of content that I've been creating. And in the near future I'll be creating an app for Mongolian people to meditate, because I believe that meditation is one of the key habits that you can create in terms of improving yourself and improving your kind of reaction to situations, because situations vary differently all the time. It changes around, and you have to become able to kind of evaluate the situation that you're in and make a clear decision from a clear mind, like make the most optimal decision based on the situation with a clear mind. And meditation is a crucial element towards that. So if you want to be a business person who makes important decisions all the time, you have to meditate. It's not optional. It's a must. It's a must-have. And like Tools and Titans, the people that Tim Ferriss was interviewing, like the top 200 something, 300 people that are in the top of their industries, all these key people of influence and top athletes, top businessmen, they all, at least most of them, more than 80% of them, have different forms of meditation rituals in the morning. So they would, some of them would listen to the same song over and over and calm their mind, or some of them would just sit down and actually do some transcendental meditation or something. But the point is, like I said, meditation allows you, if you build the skill of meditation, not one session of meditation. One session of meditation doesn't do you any good, but built over time, if you do it consistently, perhaps once a week, twice a week, once a day, or more than once a day, it doesn't matter. It has to be consistent. And if you keep that up for a long time, for over several months or a year, then you create the skill of observing your situation, observing your thoughts, and making very optimal decisions based on that. And that's why I'm creating a meditation app for Mongolians, because there are a lot of meditation apps in English, like Headspace, I've forgotten other names, but there isn't any in Mongolian. So I'm creating that, and I'm also working on a bunch of other things, like different types of videos, and at the same time I answer questions directly that people ask me. And people ask me a lot of different questions, like related to do with philosophy, to do with language learning, mostly language learning. And some people ask me questions like meditation and all sorts of other things. And I want to talk about, in a different video, maybe perhaps next week's video or not, I want to talk about specifically Stoicism and being able to observe situations as an outsider, even if you're in the situation. Kind of like, you can actually train that skill if you're in a traffic, especially traffic in Mongolia, which is crazy. It's like very stressful. So in that situation, if you can keep yourself calm and observe it from an outside perspective, and if you train that, like, you don't have to be successful every time, but if you can actually start doing that, and after a few months, I think you'll be able to make great decisions in your business life and stuff afterwards. So yeah, I think that's it for today. We'll see you next week. Thank you.